I was so nervous because I knew exactly what was happening. You know, my dad started planning this for 6 months and I heard it and it was the biggest secret. But my father, as a man of faith, God gave him a word the day before we left Cuba. And to today's day, we say that was a passport. That was our ticket that God gave us. The night before, we went to church, and the pastor knew what was going to happen, and he told my father, Barbaro, if you get caught, I will have to put you in discipline in church, because what you're doing, it's illegal to the government. Do you understand what you're doing? And my dad says, I'd rather die, and if I come back, you put me in any discipline that you have to. But I need to try because God gave me this, and he's the one that showed me the way. So the pastor said, okay, I just want you to know, because here in church, there's many people, many spies from the government. So I don't want the government to be on top of us because of that. So my dad understood. My dad and the father and the pastor at that time, they were really good friends. Due to my dad was the only one in church that had a car. So anything that needed to be done vehicle-wise, my dad will be that right hand for that pastor. So he told that to my father. I was so nervous because I knew exactly what was happening. You know, my dad started planning this for 6 months and I heard it and it was the biggest secret. And I remember even in school, my mom telling me, you cannot say nothing or you will never see us because the government will put us in jail. I mean, it was that bad. It was the biggest secret that I could keep. So we're in church, but I remember it was a women's service. But funny enough, that night, a man visited from another church. He brought us a visitor and he started preaching. He started preaching about something. All I know that in the middle of the service, his name was Josue, if I'm not mistaken, the gentleman says, Bárbaro, in front of the whole entire church. That church had close to 200 to 300 people. The sea is gonna be rough. You're gonna encounter roughness in the sea, but do not be afraid because I'm with you. And my dad is like this, oh my God, you're gonna put me in jail. He started talking about Moses and how God opened the sea and how the Egyptian went through the sea. So that's why my dad was like, at least people don't understand what he's saying. But my dad exactly knew what was being said to him. And then at the end of the service, he's go, Bárbaro again. And my dad is like that. These Egyptians people that you see right now, you will never see them again. So right now my dad was like, he looked at the pastor and the pastor told him, it is your time. You're gonna be fine. And that's why, even though we were so nervous, we knew, and even me at 10-year-old, I was certain that it was not gonna be easy, but I was certain that God was in the plan of this, and God wanted us to be here in the United States, and God had something for us here in the States. And now look at everything that I've experienced. So that was a journey. We went through the road from our city to the beach. It was usually half an hour to 45 minutes. So we left town at 7 p.m. We got to the beach around 8-ish, 9-ish. I know they were going really slow due to that. The whole entire truck, it was my uncle truck, which was a government truck. My uncle was a government, he drive a truck from the government. He basically not stole it, he borrowed it that night, and he got the boat in there, and he got all the 23 people there. We were all mute. You can see the frightened in people's eyes. I remember seeing some of those people that right now they're like my uncles and my aunts. I was like, who are these people? And you can see in their face frightening because it was not only them alone, it was them with their children. And I was the oldest children there. From me and down, there was all the ages mentioned, like I mentioned to you. So you can imagine how much stress and how much trauma these people had to do and how much determination they had to do that. But everybody was in silent. They would just talk in code. When we get it there, you bring it down. We were gonna do this. So the men had their own mindset. So the women will huddle with the children and they'll be protecting the children. But me, I'm always being so curious. And again, I was exposed to being a little girl. I've never lived a life of a little girl. I've always been a little more grown up. I always wanted to know what was going on. I wanted to know what is there. I always wanted to be prepared. I don't know why, but I always have that sense of being prepared no matter what's going to happen. As we were in that truck and the moms were with their children, protecting them, trying to make sure they were okay. I remember they even brought food. I was not hungry at all. I remember they offered me something and I did not want to eat. I know that I was like, no, I don't want nothing. I was on a mission. I was like, this is something that is going to impact my life. This is life or death. That's how my dad mentioned it to me, and that's how I really, grasp it. So I remember one of the children, actually my father partner son, he had a lifesaver on. So the parents, I didn't have any, so I was like, do I needed one? I just know that we were there. So we got out of the truck. My uncle left. He needed to leave. He could not even say goodbye to my father. He just left and he dropped us there. I remember then, paying the guards with a couple of things that they give him a package. So we were right there on the beach, and I remember on that beach, on that sand, we sat for hours. It was so many hours that I was like, what's going on? And I would hear them struggling, but they could not tell me what it was. And all of a sudden I see, and it was that the whole entire, now I know because my age, and I can acknowledge that and see that, it was that the sea was so rough, exactly what that meant, told my father, that the waves will go up to 3 to 4 feet tall. They were so rough that they were trying to figure it out how to even make it on that beach. And so they put the boat in there, and as soon as they put the boat, a wave came inside the boat and sealed it completely to the top. That was the biggest challenge they have right there. So right there, I know the women's were talking among them, what are we gonna do? Oh my God. And the other one, there was some of them that were women of faith. They'd be like, don't worry. And I remember I was trying to ask and nobody would tell me. They're like, this little girl, you don't need to know, And I was so desperate to know, but I would see my father, and he was on top of the raft with a bucket pulling water off. And guess what? That boat did not sink. It was floating, full of water, but it was floating. So all of these men got on top of the boat and started taking the water out. That's why it took so long and we couldn't figure it out. So the plan was for us to be on that little area, the shallow area. They couldn't do that. They had to take the boat far in so those big waves cannot sink that boat again or fill it up with water. So that's what they were doing. They were with a bucket taking the water out, and their plan was like, we need to take this boat deep sea, then we'll come pick up the women, or we'll see how it was. All I know is when they said we're ready to go, it was around midnight, almost 1 a.m. It was midnight because it took us an hour to swim to the boat. I remember I drank so much salt water, but my dad grabbed me, and my mom grabbed my little brother. So they were both trying to swim us to the boat, and it was a struggle. That's why in life has to be full of struggle so you can taste victory. So it took us an hour once we started to swimming to get to that boat. And it was so traumatic that I still taste and I still see, those waves hitting our faces, and we were wet completely. And we got inside that raft. And once I get inside the raft and I grab my brother and my mom gets in it, then there's all these other kids and moms. So I'm like, where's my dad? And my mom's like, no, the men are on the boat. They're guiding us through it. So we're here because this is the safest place for us to be. If something happened to the boat, they knew that that raft was so safe and it had 2 compartments. It was such a leap of faith that that boat that my dad created, the raft, that engine was made from zero. And that engine, when you mechanics people out there know, when you build an engine, you need to try it. You need to run it for a couple hours to make sure that engine, there's no escape, there's no little glitch on there. I just know that we never had that opportunity. So it was a new engine and they were just going by faith. It was such a traumatic event going through the beach, swimming to that boat, that everybody was trying to survive, not to sink or I guess die, that they left the water, they left the food, and they left the fuel of the engine. So the engine was only running on the fuel that when they were supposed to, I guess, try it, and they never did. So they're like, we're inside here, let's go. So that was just the beginning. And to me, that beginning was like, are we done? Are we in the United States already? This is traumatic enough. It wasn't like that, actually. That was just the beginning. Me living it and seeing it right now is just, I cannot even imagine that I lived that and my parents even, survived that. So the son of my dad partner, I remember the one that had his life jacket on. He's actually my same age, so we were both 10. And I'm like, what is this kid doing with this life jacket in front of me? Like, are you serious? Because we were all suffocated, like there was no air. And all of a sudden this kid is with a life jacket. And I'm like, and he's right in front of me. And I looked at him and all of a sudden I didn't put 1 and 2 together. Everybody started throwing up in the raft. I guess the sickness, because the hood of the raft was right there on top of all of us, because the men didn't put it all the way up. So they just fill it up and left it like that. So remember, there's no ventilation, there's no air. So you have all these people on top of each other breathing. So much stress, I guess. So much, I guess, trauma at that time. I just started throwing up. And I remember I threw up so much in front of this kid that it was ridiculous. I mean, I threw up so much. I mean, I would think like every half an hour I would throw up. So it was so much that then I kind of fell asleep. So I went on a state that I fell asleep. And in the middle of the night, around 3 or 4, one of the men, they start swimming back to the raft and they tell us, because the girls were screaming, this thing is sinking, it's deflating. So the man is like, oh my God, it is deflating, what are we gonna do? So one of the men swim back to the raft and they check one of the levels and they're like, no, it's one of the level, because of the whole entire hood of the raft came on top of us. And guess what? Nobody knows how that hood came on top of us.